Hello everyone, I am Indu from Albertian Institute of Management. Dissatisfaction, that is one of the major things every employer is worried and scared about. They do not want this one entity in organizations. And one of the major reasons that can cause dissatisfaction in an organization is grievance. So today we are here to discuss on the topic grievance redressal. What is a grievance? It is actually any real or imaginary feeling of dissatisfaction or injustice which any employee feels. It may be expressed or it may be not expressed. But what he feels that he is not getting in an organization is what is called a grievance. So we can say that it may be something which is related to their work, their workplace, or it may also be related to someone who is at their work. When we look into the various forms of grievances, we find that there are basically three different types of grievances. The first type of grievance is called the factual grievance. This is actually the type of grievance which happens in an organization. For example, an employee is denied his due promotion. That is called a factual grievance. The second type of grievance is called the imaginary grievance. An imaginary grievance is a grievance which may be formed because of the wrong attitude or a wrong perception. And an employee feels that he is not getting his due. The third one is actually called the disguised grievance. This is again a very important type of grievance because in this type of grievance, it is not really possible to find out the cause of the grievance because it may be related to something which may be outside the organization. But this may create a feeling of unhappiness or dissatisfaction or stress in the employees, which will create a feeling of grievance in him. When we look into the common causes of grievances, one of the most important causes of grievances is actually called the working conditions. When an employee is dissatisfied with the conditions of work which is provided to him, then it may create a grievance in this person. The second is compensation. When an employee is unhappy with the compensation or the monetary amount which is given to him, when compared to others in the organization, this also can be a cause for grievance. The third important cause is actually supervision. The employee feels that he is being unduly supervised by somebody, or he feels that he is not being given his required freedom of work, then it may create a feeling of grievance in this person. The fourth is actually team. When an employee feels that the members of his team is actually taking undue advantage of him, or when he is doing a work but he is not getting the credit for it, then he will be having a grievance against his team members. The next is promotion. This is again a very important cause of grievance. Here, the employee feels that a promotion which is due to him is denied to him or it is given to somebody else. This creates a great feeling of dissatisfaction in an employee, which can definitely affect his productivity. The next is discrimination. This is again a very important cause of grievance because when an employee feels that he is being discriminated against or being partialized against somebody, then he feels a feeling of grievance. The last but not the least is the safety and health related issues. When an employee feels that the working conditions or the environment in which he is working is not safe enough, or it is actually creating health related issues or problems in him, then he has a feeling of dissatisfaction or grievance. Let's now look into the impact of grievance in an organization. The first factor is indiscipline. An aggrieved employee normally refuses to obey the rules and regulations of the organization. So this definitely is a reason or something which an organization can look up to. The second is low morale. Low morale means the employee is not as happy with what is happening in the organization. The third is decreased productivity. When an employee is unhappy or dissatisfied or aggrieved, definitely his quality of production will suffer. This will definitely result in decreased productivity. The next is high absenteeism and turnover. When an employee is aggrieved, in many cases, he refuses to be part of the organization. He takes leave from the organization, which will cause absenteeism. And he will also start looking out for leaving the organization, which will lead to turnover or the exit from the organization. The next is loss of faith in the management. When an employee is feeling aggrieved, definitely he will lose faith in the management, or he will start believing that the management will not be able to do things as per his expectations. The next is increase in accidents. Definitely when you are feeling aggrieved, many times people do not take as much effort or as much interest or attention in the work that is being done. So this can actually result in accidents, specifically in manufacturing industries. The next is deterioration in superior-subordinate relationship. Definitely when someone is having a feeling of grievance against a superior, the relationship between the superior and the subordinate will definitely suffer. And the last is lowering of organization's goodwill. An aggrieved employee will never speak good about the organization. So whenever he's speaking to others about the organization, it will never be good. So this will again result in lowering of organization's goodwill. Now, let's try to understand how management is able to identify employee grievance. And one of the first ways is to observe. So when the top management or the supervisors are paying attention to their employees, they will be able to identify whenever the employee is feeling aggrieved. The second is exit interview. Many cases, this is one of the ways in which organization identifies what is wrong with the organization. An exit interview is an interview which an employee gives when he leaves the organization. So this is a time in many cases when the employee actually speaks about or speaks out about the problems he faced in the organization. The second is opinion surveys. Many times surveys are conducted among the employees, which gives them an occasion to talk about the organization or their issues. The next is gripe boxes. So these are boxes or suggestion kit boxes where the employees are able to write and put their suggestions or problems without putting their names. And the last is the open door policy. This is where the employee is able to reach out to the management or meet the representatives of the management at any point of time and talk about their problems. So these are just some of the different ways in which organization has to identify the grievances. Now let's look into the grievance handling procedure. Grievance handling procedure is actually based on the Code of Discipline, which was adopted in the 16th session of the Labour Conference in the year 1958, and it contains many stages or steps which has to be followed in the organization when they are doing grievance redressal. So when you look into it, you can see that one of the first things an aggrieved employee has to do is to meet the departmental representative and complain when register his complaint. When it is not answered within the next 48 hours, this will move to the head of the department. He is expected to give an answer within 3 days. And if there is no answer for this grievance within the next 3 days, he can actually approach the grievance committee. So the grievance committee will have representatives from the management, employees, as well as the head of the department of that specific committee. So that committee is supposed to actually give a reply within this next 7 days. And if that is not done, then it moves to the chief executive. And they're supposed to give a reply within the next 7 days. And if it is not happening, then it is expected to go in for voluntary arbitration outside the organization. So this is actually the stages of procedure that is there to redress a grievance within the organization. And it is always effective if it is addressed at the topmost or the first level itself. Now, when you look into the essentials of a good grievance handling procedure, we can see that one of the most important things is that it has to be fair and unambiguous. That means when a grievance is being redressed, both the parties should feel that it has been good or impartial, and it is unambiguous. That means it is clear, there is clarity. The second is it should have legal sanctity. It should actually follow the rules and regulations of the government and definitely the policies. The next is it has to be done after ascertaining facts. That means whenever a grievance is being redressed, both the parties has to be heard separately, and then the facts has to be clearly understood before handling the grievance. The next is it should be simple. The process has to be in simple, which is made understood to all the employees of the organization. The next is it should be transparent. When you speak about a transparent procedure, it talks about a procedure which is clear to everybody. That means every employee in the organization has a clear-cut idea as to what will happen when a grievance is given and how it will be addressed and what are the various stages that it will go through. The next is it has to be keen and prompt. Again, this is a very important factor because only if that grievance is addressed keenly and promptly, it will have impact. And the last but not the least, it should be handled by trained people so that it is handled in the best possible manner. So these are the various essentials of handling a grievance. It is essential in an organization to address the grievance at the earliest so that there is no dissatisfaction among the employees. So that is all for today. Thank you.